6 minutes now after 9 o'clock, and of course, on our way probably into the 80s before the day is over, but only 66 at the moment. I want to thank you for joining us on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I have a guest today who's joining us because, gosh, he's known Newt Gingrich probably for close to 40 years. Phil Kent lives in Georgia. In fact, worked at one time on Capitol Hill himself and worked in the newspaper industry for many, many years too as well. And now he's doing some consulting work and still keeps a lot of tabs on what happens politically in this country and keeps a lot of close friendships with people he's known for a long time. First of all, Phil, welcome back to our program.
Well, Bill, it's good to be with you. Appreciate all you do.
Well, right off the top, you've known Gingrich, I would imagine, since he first arrived in Georgia, and he was elected to the U.S. House in the late 1970s, and then of course his rise to Speaker was just phenomenally quick.
Well, that's right, and you may remember this, but for the newcomers that are listeners, it took him 3 times to get into Congress. So persistence has been one of his traits.
I think I've mentioned to you on a number of occasions that he is our version of Winston Churchill in the sense that he's got the brilliance, he can write, he can speak, but in many ways he's also been treated like Churchill was by the media in England as well as many people in Churchill's own party and his opposition. And Gingrich keeps coming back like Churchill from all of that.
Well, he does, Bill, and a couple of points on my friend, and you've seen this yourself, and many people who follow this have seen it. The media is liberal, as we know, and journalism is my background, and I've been trying to be a voice there for the last 30 years in a liberal-dominated media. But the good news is the internet and social media, and Newt is a master at that. He tweets, he does Facebook videos, he talk radio. He was one of the first conservatives to along with Rush, to tell us, hey, use talk radio. That's where we win. So, and he really is a brilliant guy. I don't just say that because we're friends. And I could pick 5 people, and he's one of the top people I've ever met with just some brilliant ideas. Now, yes, he can make some mistakes, but I had the opportunity to be with him on a cruise in Europe a couple weeks ago, and we really caught up. And if you look at the Drudge Report headline, "Ready for War" with Newt in Ohio with Donald Trump. I think that was a very apt headline. Newt knows how to deal with the media, knows how to get around the media, and knows how to do messaging. And I think Trump is being very wise, listening to him and getting advice from him.
That short list this morning I read where, gosh, I think General Michael Flynn's name popped up, but that seems to me to be a long shot. That short list, and Joni Ernst backed out yesterday, and we've had a couple of other people say, I guess Corker said they weren't interested. So we're down really to about 3 names now, and Gingrich's name just doesn't go away. As a handicapper of politics, do you think that he's going to be the guy?
I think he's got an excellent shot. I saw what you've just revealed, the people dropping out. Of course, I think a lot of Republicans don't want to see any senators leave. That would just hurt so much because in order for a President Trump to get anything done, he has to have a Republican Senate, as you well know. So I'm not surprised to see those folks dropping out. It's not like they don't like Mr. Trump. I think they feel like they're more important where they are in their Senate seats. So to answer your question, I think Newt has the inside track. He's got the policy experience in working with Congress, and he knows a lot of the Republican members in Congress. And I think he sees himself as a great asset. I would say he won't get it if the thinking is over the next week that Donald Trump really needs somebody from a very important electoral college state. And of course, Trump can surprise you sometimes. So he may search around for somebody who is compatible and yet would bring a state in because the electoral college obviously elects the president, not a majority of the American people.
Well, that would, of course, he couldn't pull out Pat Toomey because that's a loss again in the Senate. And down in Florida, Marco has already said, I'm not interested. So those are the 2 big swing states I could think of that could go Trump's way. But, Gingrich
traditionally, you're right, but this is not a traditional election. Trump is going to be doing very well in Rust Belt states. States, I think that's why Michigan could be an interesting one. Indiana, the fact that he talked with Mike Pence, I thought that was very interesting. That's a swing state. Pence, a governor, been in Congress. That's what the team. I mean, that's what any political consultant would be looking at. Those two schools of thought: a Newt Gingrich, who would probably reassure a lot of Republicans that there's a good team there, or the other school of thought: get an electoral college state with somebody who's pretty good. So it's going to boil down to that. And we'll be knowing in about a week, I would think.
Our guest is Phil Kent. Of course, Phil is joining us as he's a longtime friend of Newt Gingrich and talking about the possibility Gingrich could be the nominee for vice president of the Republican Party. 12 minutes after 9 o'clock and 67. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. I spoke with my sister back in upstate New York a few days ago, and she was a one-time liberal who the last 8 years have convinced her that the Democrat Party has lost its way, and she has been since, really 2008 when she voted for John McCain and has stayed with the Republican Party ever since. And these were people who also backed Carl Palladino for governor a few years ago in that state. But she says, I was talking with her, I said, who's for Donald Trump? And she said, everybody. And in upstate New York, that's still a surprise, too, as well, because all of those cities, as you well know, in upstate New York, up and down Route 20 and Route 90 were Democrat strongholds, but this could be Donald Trump breaking all of that.
Well, that's an interesting insight, and I don't care whether it's in Idaho or Georgia or in upstate New York, where I was born. There's a lot of folks who are for Trump. I went to a wedding in Vernon Downs, Bill. You know where that is.
Yeah.
A couple of months back. Everybody at the reception was for Trump. And why? because of the fact that jobs. People want jobs. People are working two jobs. Even those on the left, even a blind squirrel can find an acorn. And those on the left, with Bernie Sanders, realized that the American worker has been stabbed in the back by bad trade deals and illegal immigration that drive down wages. Many people don't realize that the illegal immigrants, they're not just doing jobs on somebody's lawn. They're stealing high-paying jobs. I was talking with many black workers on a construction site here in Atlanta. They said, Mr. Kent, they're stealing jobs right from us on this site. So I think Trump is tapping into this. And, Newt Gingrich has always been strong on illegal immigration. And one of my pet peeves, as you well know, Bill, is English is the official language of the United States. I'm on the board of a group called Pro English. Shameless plug here. Check out proenglish.org. And so Donald Trump is tapping into that frustration that we don't want to lose this country.
Well, talking about plugs, because I'll let people know that you probably are one of the nation's foremost writers on immigration issues, especially illegal immigration and refugee resettlement. You're frequently in the op-ed pages of the Washington Times. You've written books on this subject. And for that reason, people should check out your website where they can get a lot more details.
Well, thank you. PhilKent.com, a good marketing strategy, right? Brand yourself.
Yes. Well, I can remember there was a time.
Thank you, Bill. And I know you've always been a big supporter. I think you've had some of my books. But I'm very optimistic about this fall with Donald Trump winning. It will be a close election. You can't underestimate the Clinton machine. But I think that's, to go back to the original theme here, I think that's where Newt Gingrich does so well if he was part of the ticket. He's a very good messenger, and there's very few on the Republican conservative side that can message as well as Newt Gingrich.
I would also think that if he's not the choice for VP, that as a chief of staff, if you wanted to get a Trump agenda through Congress, he's the guy. Whether it be VP, but if he can't be VP, chief of staff would be a logical move.
Well, it might be, although I with you, I would love to see him as Secretary of State with his vast knowledge of foreign affairs, and I think he can really complement Donald Trump in that area. Chief of Staff, you're seeing who comes in, and sees the president, and you're trying to, herd cats, and you're gonna, have turf battles, and I don't think that's a good fit for Newt. I think he's a big picture guy, and he understands foreign policy just as much as domestic policy. So if he doesn't get deep, and you did hear in Ohio yesterday, that Donald Trump said I want him to be part of my administration. So that was a very interesting comment.
And then the crowd started chanting Newt, 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 and got a big smile from Trump.
That was quite a video of Newton, Ohio. If anybody wants to get on the Drudge Report and check out that video, it was very interesting.
Now, the one thing about a vice presidential candidate, traditionally they have been the attack dogs, but the role would almost be reversed this time around with Trump doing the attacks, where Gingrich is the policy guy.
Well, yes, I think you could argue that, but I also think that and other vice presidents have had portfolios given to them by presidents, and I think that Donald Trump is smart enough to. I'm going to give you a quick example to tell Newt Gingrich, if he's vice president, Newt, I want your priority to cut government and reform the tax code and do this and that, and I think that would be a perfect assignment, and Newt Gingrich would want to have such an assignment. And so you'd have some specifics. You wouldn't just be attending funerals and things like that. You'd actually be trying to turn things around in this country after 8 years of Obama damage.
And I think we've seen such a change in that role of the vice president, really since Dick Cheney, that most vice presidents now are very active in government, and that the notion that the guy's a placeholder is long gone at this point.
Well, they are. I mean, you read Bob Gates's book about Vice President Joe Biden. He's very and even Gates said he kind of disparagingly that unfortunately Biden has an anti-military streak in him, and he would fight Biden harder than he would Obama on some of these military decisions in the first term of Obama. It's very interesting.
Got about 30 seconds left. Newt gave me an autographed portrait many, many years ago, and I had that portrait with my Reagan portrait and my Ann Coulter portrait and my Colonel Steve Heil portrait. I had all of these portraits around the house that I used to keep in the office. But when I unpacked, when I got to Idaho, I have not been able to find Newt's portrait. So if you talk to him, tell him there's a request. I'd like another autographed portrait.
All right, we're gonna make that happen, Bill. I'm glad. I'm gonna look out for my pal, but stay tuned. This will be interesting. I think he's got the inside track, but with Donald Trump, you never know.
Well, it's great talking with you again. And one more time for the folks listening, what's your website address?
Well, you can check out my work at www.philkent.com. And as I mentioned earlier, check out proenglish.org for my work there to make English the official language of government in the United States.
We look forward to doing all of that. And I thank you again for your time, and I hope we get to talk again very soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Take care, sir. Phil Kent joining us this morning on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com, joining us from his office in Atlanta, Georgia, offering some thoughts on the possibility that Newt Gingrich could be the nominee of the Republican Party for vice president and what Gingrich would bring to that ticket. We've got some of your comments coming up in a few minutes right here on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com, the show Top Story.